Sergeant Nathan Williams was hired by the Cedar City, Utah Police Department in February of 2000. Sergeant Williams has served in a variety of different roles throughout his career. He worked patrol and has served as a patrol sergeant. Sergeant Williams has also worked as a detective, as a SWAT team member, and is currently the SWAT team commander. And he is currently serving as the administrative sergeant for the police department. And so we just welcome you, and we're looking forward to visiting with you today.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, when Haley reads that, you've served in many different capacities, and you've seen a lot, and you've been through a lot. And both of us just feel gratitude for the work that you've done and all the other first responders, because I know there's a price you pay personally to do the job you do.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So we wanted to visit with you because your police department does use tappers, at least some of you. And I know as a therapist, and I've worked with first responders in session, that one of the main complaints is it's just a profession where you guys just don't get a lot of sleep for a number of different reasons. And so I just wanted to ask you, like, maybe just how have the tappers helped you get better sleep?
So definitely the tappers. I noticed that for me personally, I would tend to go home and things would be running through my brain when it would come time to relax and go to bed.
Yeah.
So those ideas, the tasks that I needed for the following day, problems at home, it would just consistently go through my head. I tried things like writing on notepads. It just didn't seem to help all that much. I would still take a long time to get to sleep, and then it wasn't a restful sleep, it seemed like. What I noticed with the tappers is that I incorporated like a meditation type of activity. It's something I learned back in college, breathing in conjunction with a peaceful location. But I still noticed that even trying that, my brain would shift and the task would come back, and then I would start going down that path and forget about what I was meditating on. So what I found with the tappers is, as part of my therapy, brought up that something peaceful for me is being in the mountains, hiking, hunting. So I set the tappers to kind of like a rhythmic pace of a slow walk, like I would do when I was hunting. So then transition into one of my more peaceful places where I go hunting. And then if my brain started shifting, or at least going down a different path, thinking about a task, whatnot, then I was able to shift back and feel that physical thump on my wrist, which started bringing me back to, hey, refocus on what you're doing. And then over the course of time, that those distractions or those ideas in my head would stop, and I was able to focus on a meditation a lot easier, and that put me to sleep. And it seemed like over the course of maybe, I don't know, it didn't seem like it was a long time, maybe a month or two. It was a lot easier just to flip that switch and then get to bed quicker. I mean, now I would say 5-6 minutes tops, I'm out, and without the tappers. So it kind of helped process, train my brain.
It's a big deal.
Really
so
good.
then did you hold them or wear the tappers at night? Because then it's just tapping.
So I wear them
on
my wrist.
Wear them on your wrist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
so I usually throw them on the inside of my wrist. That seems to work for me, where I feel that tactile sensation a little bit more on the inside.
Yeah.
I like that you matched it to the cadence of like a slow walk. So it's just that back and forth tapping that your brain already knows when you're up in your place that you find very peaceful. So I think that's one of the advantages of the tappers, is you get to find the rate of speed and the intensity that you like. We haven't determined it for you. You get to choose it.
Absolutely. That one did work for me. Like, I think they come like preset for a faster tempo, but then I found, like I said, even just imagining that slow walk and putting myself in that meditative state, it really seemed to help for me to get in tune with what I was trying to meditate with.
No, that's great.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
really
once
good.
you pair those tappers to the Bi-Tapp app, then you get to have full control over how fast and how slow. And at night, usually it's slower than maybe what someone would set during the day. Because like I use them during the day for focus. So I have them just a little bit faster than I do at night when I sleep.
Yep, I did notice that the different tempos, like, hey, I'm just need a little bit more beat. I'm not feeling that energy level, and then
Mhm.
being able to tap it up just a minute or just a few more beats per se, and then you start feeling that. Oh, okay, it does change the rhythm of being able to amp yourself up, as it were.
Yeah. And have you been able to use them like during work?
Oh yes, yes. Matter of fact, I'm wearing them right now.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too.
You're at work.
yes.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like for my everyday, like we mentioned, I'm the admin sergeant right now, so I'm doing the jumping task to task to task to task, and I find that it's not the same, obviously, as in being in the patrol setting of that, you know, escalation, de-escalation, consistently rising and falling. It just kind of seems consistent
Hmm.
with that stress. So to be able to sit back, even like this morning, being able to sit back, take just 3 to 5 minutes, listen to some music, close my eyes, let those tappers come down. Um, Even then, I noticed that that was just enough to bring me back into an even kilter, right?
Yeah, and I'm hoping the day comes that, like how you said, the first responders that are working patrol or just, just in those high intense, because it is up and it is down and it is up and it is down, and that is absolutely exhausting. And so we're hoping that eventually the tappers will be used as part of maybe during that to slow down the dumping of stress hormones, and then part of recovery. So they're not just sitting in that extra, amount of stress hormones, because that's exhausting. And then you have nothing in the tank when you go home. And
No,
you
it,
know
it-
that firsthand.
absolutely. I
Mhm.
think that you're kind of hitting the nail on the head. If we can start to shift that to where, okay, you've come off on a relatively hot call, you're still amped up, even
Mhm.
just pulling off on the side of the road for a minute, it not for the safety aspect. I wouldn't say close your eyes and listen to music real loud.
Yeah.
Maybe that's in a patrol room. I mean, we even have in our department, one of the interview rooms is set up as a soft interview room. Even if they were to come down, just take that 5 minutes,
Yep.
close your eyes, you're in a safe spot. I think that would do mountains for starting to get that, not necessarily healing per se, but being able to start that shift. Okay, I've decompressed off this. Maybe we won't get to that such a high elevated state to come back to the low elevated or low state in order to rebound to a normal state. I think
Mhm.
it would help that.
That's what we were
Mhm.
hoping too.
Yes.
Just returning to baseline over and over and
Yes.
over. So you're not up, up, down, up, up, down. We're trying to just get it to go back to baseline so that overall, just your overall health is much better, because it's just a cumulative stress and trauma over the years, and you know that. And so I
Absolutely.
feel like this is so simple that if they just throw them on, whether it's in their socks or, like you said, pockets or wrists, then
Mhm.
it's that little movement will actually help just bring that stress level back to baseline. Yeah.
And it's really amazing unless you try it. I think unless you try it for yourself and then have that self-realizing moment of, oh wow, that did it took such a short time because you weren't so high, you're able to
Hmm.
bring it back to that baseline, and now, oh, you don't have that cumulative like you were saying. So
And then you learn what baseline is, huh? You know what I mean? They're
yes,
like, oh, there
yeah,
I
then you
am.
realize, oh, this is where a normal human being operates. That's good.
Ah,
Mhm.
well, how about Sergeant Williams on transitions home? Like, let's just say you've had a rough shift, and then have you ever used them just as part of your transition home so that when you're home, then maybe you're in a little bit better place?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a part of my therapy sessions with Natalie. We started talking about trying to find ways to uh, get back closer to baseline before
Mhm.
you get home. That way, you can start to deal with those, the family concerns.
Yeah.
So for me, I would start to listen to like music, film scores on the way home. Once I checked off duty, I've got the tappers on, and I've got maybe a 10 minute drive home, rough guess. But during that 10 minutes of being able to listen, to have those tappers working, it brought me again back closer to that baseline, closer than I would normally be. That way, when I walked in the door and the wife says, "Hey, this problem's here. This is what's going on here. Our kids are having this issue." Then it was a lot easier to go, okay, separate yourself from uh, this particular stress you're trying to carry home from work. Okay, let me put that aside just for a sec. Let me deal with what you've got to address or what we have to address as a family. And then, okay, now I can start working, but getting back on my own baseline.
Yeah, just the transition's a little easier, huh?
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
probably a lot more manageable to the family as
Mm.
opposed to just coming home and
Sure.
being that, shutting down, trying to get back to my baseline.
Well, and I think Sergeant Williams, it's just if you think about just all day, just that up and down, by the time you're
Mhm.
home, you are exhausted. So it makes sense that you want to decompress. And so,
Mhm.
so if we can help return to baseline throughout the shift, then like you said, and then on that transition home, then hopefully you're closer to baseline. So then your family can have some of the best of you so that you're not quite so,
Yes.
shut down.
Yeah, it doesn't take as long to decompress, and then get back to where you're operational and where you can enjoy the family. More importantly, the family can enjoy you, at least in my personal opinion,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because I went for the longest time with that stigma of not getting help, and I was just not pleasant to be around. Talking with my kids now, after, I mean, I would say it's a complete 180 flip of who I used to be before therapy, getting the Bi-Tapp type help, the EMDR specifically. Um, yeah, my kids will tell you now, like my son's 17, he's like, yeah, you were not a nice guy.
Wow.
And I fully agree. Like, yeah, I was what I perceived was a horrible person.
Mm.
But now they've been able to see that shift between the therapy, EMDR, tappers, decompressing, finding these methods to come back to normal baseline. And I'm able to engage much more quickly, I would say, with my family, and they do get to see a better side of me.
And I think that's part of just the price you pay and so many pay. And then, like you said, then it's a
Yes.
domino effect and then your family's affected and you never wanted that. And
No,
yeah, but I
you didn't
love,
ever want that for the family. We're
no,
willing to sacrifice of ourselves
right.
just for the benefit of other folks. But at the same time, it does take that toll that we don't recognize as
Hmm.
peace officers. We come down, we shut down, we try to decompress and get back to a baseline, realizing or not realizing the effect and the toll it takes on our family. Well, why is dad just sitting on the couch? Why is he doing
Hmm.
this? And then to be able to now understand that myself and even explain to them this is what's going on, but it's a little bit, at least I think it's easier on them as well
I
once we
think so.
self-realize.
Yeah. No, that's big for you to address that. I think it's a really big issue. It's an unintended consequence
Mhm.
of your
Yes.
profession.
Yeah, it does spill over, and you don't mean it to, but it just does. And that's why when we were creating the tappers, first responders were one of the top of the
Mhm.
list that we really wanted the tappers to help and for you guys to have that opportunity to try them and to see if it was a benefit.
Mhm.
So,
And I could only dream or wish that my father was a surgeon, passed on now,
Mm.
but he would come home, and I didn't quite understand it when I was a child. He would do the exact same thing that I did before I got therapy, before I got help. Um, so he would come home and just sit and watch, football, sports, and I could not for the life of me understand why he wouldn't engage with me. And
Yeah.
then if it was like I was interrupting.
mhm.
A little bit of anger sort of type thing. So yeah, I wish these would have been around a lot longer. And I'm sure he faced the same type of stigma that
Yes.
we do or have had.
Yeah.
So just being able to break the stigma and then finding the right help it would have been awesome. And obviously for me, it's been a huge benefit.
Well,
Wonderful.
yeah, I'm proud of you because I mean, you're doing a whole generation better, and then you understand why it happened, like for your dad and you and so many,
Uh,
and then but you've turned the corner, and now you
Yep.
get to be a huge advocate for, um, just for other first responders. Because I feel like if it's raining outside and we go outside, we're gonna get wet. So you guys are exposed
right.
to so much stuff. It's just gonna affect you. And so to be able to have, I'm still an advocate of therapy and other things, but to be able to have a resource that you can use anytime you need to help get back to baseline in a healthy way, because there's lots of unhealthy techniques. You know what I mean? That's why
Absolutely.
your
Yep.
dad is probably zoned out because he's just trying to
Right.
recover. So this is just a super simple way that then you're able to engage more quickly. And I just wanted to ask you, because I know the family focus is important to Haley, because her, if you want to say like your son-in-law.
Yeah, he's in APMP right now, and it was something my daughter
Fantastic.
was not really fond of him doing, but it's a dream of his whole life. He
Law
wanted
enforcement.
to be in law enforcement.
Mhm.
And so they found something that he could do. And now he's going to be a federal parole officer at this time. He's changed, but they understand that it's just something that kind of progresses throughout the career. If you don't find ways early to kind of find that baseline and deal with things as they happen, then it just becomes bigger than you can manage at times. And so he's trying to do that himself
Mhm.
and then share it with other officers that it's not a bad thing that you need help sometimes. And we love the tappers because you can hide them. No one has to even know you use them. You can put them in your pockets, you can put them in your socks, and
Yeah.
nobody has to even know that you're using them. But we're just grateful for that opportunity for him as well, and just other families to just have what you want, what you've always wanted, just
Just
to
be regulated.
yeah. And you
Yep.
just can't help it with what you're doing and seeing every day. It's too much, and we're so grateful for your willingness to sacrifice some of your sanity in ways and your life. And so we just really feel passionate about first responders having this resource in their
Mhm.
lives and for their families.
And what would
No,
you
I
say,
think it's great.
what would you say about your, like, does your wife or use the tappers or?
Oh,
is it-
absolutely. I would say, my, I think all three of our 5 children have used them. So within therapy sessions, but my wife, she's also currently experiencing a heart issue, AFib. So,
That's scary.
well, yes, it is extremely scary. We've already gone through one surgery for a heart condition, then we have another one that's coming up. But with the AFib, what she finds is if she's able to toss on these tappers and kind of recognizing that early, that the heart rate's starting to elevate and it's starting to, start acting on her physiologically,
Mhm.
just to be able to lay down, toss on the tappers, and then it starts again, just starts self-regulating. And it's just a matter of 5 or 10 minutes where she's laying down and then that starts to come back off. So it doesn't require some of these emergency medications to regulate that. She's able to start self-regulating to a point, and if it does get a little bit excessive, then there's that
Sure.
emergency type medication. But for the most part, she's able to self-recognize, and she has that tool. And kind of like you mentioned, Cindy, is that just being able to have that when you don't necessarily need to see a therapist or do an EMDR on it, just simple stressful thing pops up like, man, my sprinklers just broke. Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
I
Right.
got a couple grand. I'm gonna have to dive into this, or
Mhm.
a couple $100 for that. I mean, it's like everybody, just those simple stressors in life,
That
and then being
everybody
able to have
has.
something. Exactly. It's not
Yep.
just law enforcement.
No,
Everybody's got it.
That part,
But to be
yes,
able to
yes.
absolutely.
have that tool just to say, hey, I'm recognizing that I'm getting elevated, getting out of whack, and then to be able to calm down, a little peaceful session for about 3 to 5 minutes to self-regulate. Okay, I'm going to be fine. I can
Mhm.
get through this.
Well, and the reason it works so easily is just that bilateral stimulation, just back and forth. So like you have them on your wrist or you can hold them or wear them. Just that bilateral stimulation, it just inhibits, right here's where your amygdala is. It's on each side.
Mhm.
It just calms that part down that's like activating fight or flight. And so
Yep.
with your wife, because she's insightful and she's mindful and she can tell her heart rate's going up, and then she just holds those, then it just helps it just settle back down just on its own. Because actually our brain loves that, and it does that under all conditions. And so, but when we get stressed, then that frontal brain just cannot remember like other coping skills we've been taught. And so this just calms down. And that's why you're able to say, oh, and I want to pair the tappers with this music I like. So see,
Mhm.
you're just putting it together, because either you can use the tappers on their own or you put it together with something else like you're doing with either a meditation or music. And that's really good.
Yeah. It's very powerful
No,
to know you have a resource that helps to go to
it-
once you know it
absolutely.
works.
And nobody else has got to know. Like, I
No,
just
no.
go off on my own and just, hey, I'll be
Mhm.
back in a few minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
oh, what was that about? I'm just recentering, right?
I think it's
Just
you're role
kind of like
modeling
the
good
quick
behavior.
naps.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. Yes.
No, I think it's great. And we just appreciate your time, and um we're just excited that you were willing to share just how you're using them and how your family's also benefiting. And I just want you to know, I myself over the years, I teach coping skills, and like how you said, like you can know all the things to do, and I I still work out. I have like spiritual practice. I have good friends. Like I have all the things you want in place, and I still have really stressful moments. And so being able to use those to settle down, or I use them when I'm doing paperwork just to help me stay focused. So there's just lots of different ways to use them. And I actually use them myself to help me sleep, especially if I have heard, maybe if just pretend
Oh,
I've worked with
yes.
you. So
Yes.
then, you hear very,
That secondary trauma.
yeah. And so I
Yes.
hear it. I didn't see it, but my brain acts like it saw it.
Mhm.
And so then I have a hard time sleeping sometimes. So I use them to sleep, and I've recovered and have really, meaning I sleep well again. And that's priceless, right? To be able to sleep.
Yeah, that is truly it. It's just whether it's a good night's sleep, a nap, something to get that recenter. But
Yeah.
if we don't have the proper amount of sleep, the quality of the sleep, I mean, then we're just setting ourselves up for failure, I would say, on the following day. So
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
true.
Yes.
very important.
Well, we sure appreciate you, and just please know we honor you and all the work you do. And we're very grateful that you took the time
Well,
to
thank
visit
you.
with us.
Yes. Very
No,
much.
that truly means a lot in our day and age for that. Thanks. We truly appreciate that.
You're
Yes.
welcome.